we give everything meaning as human beings. If there's one thing you take from this, is that you get to define everything, and as humans, we give everything meaning. And so what I've decided is to change my objective, to actually label my objective. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the One World Countless Stories podcast with me, Selena. Today is our final episode of this season. We are wrapping up season 2 of this podcast, and I couldn't be more excited, but also a little bit sad because it's coming to an end. But I'm just so excited because looking back and reflecting at season 2, we had so many unique, incredible people share their stories on this podcast, and it just makes me feel so grateful for the opportunity to help other people share their stories, along with being able to share my stories, my experiences, and the things that I have insights about that I want to share with you. And so I can't believe we are at the end of season 2. That means we've been doing this podcast for 2 years. And if you have been here since the very beginning, shout out to you. Thank you so much. And if you're new here, also a big, huge thank you. And so I have come up with some very exciting things for the season finale, which is this episode. Last season, the season finale was a recap from every single interview that I did, where I ask everyone at the end of every single episode, what is the best advice you've ever received? And why? What is a piece of advice you tell your younger self or someone in the younger generation? And I pretty much just made a compact of all of those things in one video. And I'm not doing that this time because I have a message and something that just came up in my life that I really want to talk about. And I feel like you need to hear it as well. And so for the season finale, it is going to be another story time with Selena, but today we are talking about the intention you set for your life through objectives and passion, and how we are all on unique journeys. So let me break that down a little bit for you and kind of break it down and tell you how I got the inspiration for this episode. So just recently, I was on a road trip with one of my friends, and to say the least, it was a little bit rocky. If you follow me on Instagram, you know it snowed in Jasper. If you wanted to know more about our trip, there is going to be a YouTube video eventually. But our trip, we were supposed to go to Jasper. It started snowing, and then we ended up going to BC, and it was just kind of a wild adventure. And so we had a lot of time in the car, and we had a lot of time talking. And an interesting topic came up, and it was talking about our past and where we are right now. And when I say our past, I mean the last couple of years of our adult lives, and what we've been doing the last couple of years, what we've learned, what we've gotten up to, but what's also coming up, and how it's actually so crazy, the things that we've done, and how every moment has brought us to the now and shaped who we are today. And we wouldn't change it for the world. But it brought up this interesting side where we talked about the feeling of being behind. And I was oh my gosh, I love talking about this because I have felt this way so much, so often. And it's not to say that I don't feel it anymore, but I definitely feel a lot less of it. And this is how I kind of got through it. And I'm going to give you some examples and experiences. But I just find that through the way that our society is kind of structured, it's you want to graduate and then get into your college degree or diploma or whatever it is and get it done. And it's super easy to compare ourselves within that kind of system. When you're in school, university, college, whatever you call it, it's super easy to be well, I'm only in my second year. I should be in my fourth year, but because my first year, I only took this many classes, I'm behind this way. And all of those crazy things. But it's super easy when you're in that school experience in university and college. It's super easy to get into comparison by the year, where it's okay, so I have done 2 physical years of school, but I'm only a year and a bit done my degree because of the way that I took my classes. And it's kind of interesting how it all works. If you want to know more, kudos to you to go dig and get into that. But if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. And it's that feeling where it's I was supposed to finish this in 4 years and I'm on my 5th year and I still have a whole nother year to go. And it gets really easy to compare. And so just because you're like not in the same place as your peers, it doesn't mean that you're not on the right path or on your right track. And so something that was brought up on this road trip was just how like it's so easy to look at our peers and be like, well, it's like if I didn't take a year off to travel, I would have already been on my third year, just like the peers that I graduated with. Some of them are already graduating, which for me, it's like, oh my gosh, that's so crazy and exciting. But it's all in the way that we kind of like perceive the way that other people's journeys are going and our journeys are going. And it can be really, really hard to not feel like you're behind, or maybe you feel like you're ahead, which kudos to you. But like a lot of time, it's really easy to feel behind, like, oh, I'm not where I should be right now. And letting go of the way that it should be. And I say should because should is a very powerful word. And it's there's this saying in this training that I did, and it's called "Don't should on yourself," because you should done that, you should have done this. If you done this, then it could have turned out like this. Should. You're just shitting all over yourself, and it's not very nice to do that to yourself, because then you start thinking about all the things that you could have done better or wrong and get into a really, really big thing. Letting go has been a reoccurring theme in my life, and a lesson that I've been having to learn and learn and learn over and over again, and realizing that we are all on these beautiful, unique journeys, and that we never actually are behind, because we are all on such different journeys and we are such different individuals along with that. Because after my first year of university, I was already like, oh my gosh, I'm behind. Like right away. I'd only taken 6 classes in 1 year. I did spring classes and I'm like, yep, I'm behind. I'm already behind. But there is so many beautiful moments that I would have missed. But there's so many beautiful moments that I would have missed out on if I did things the traditional way. And there's nothing wrong with the traditional way. It's just that if you don't follow the traditional way of going to school and getting your degree in 4 years, it's okay. And realizing that like it's okay not to do things in a traditional way. It's okay to take longer than 4 years. It's okay to take a year off and go travel. It's okay to go abroad and do school. Like whatever your way is, it's okay and it's a good thing. And in my last conversation with Molly, which I highly recommend you go check out that episode, it was mind blowing. But she talked about how we should not compare ourselves to others. And often it's like we're comparing apples to apples, but in reality, we're like apples to dragon fruit or apples to pears. Comparison is one of the biggest killer of joy. And that's just like, that's pure fact. And it's so easy to look at others and look where they are and look where you are, especially on social media, especially if you're in a lower point in your life and people are sharing their high points on social media. It's super easy to compare yourself, but just know that every single person has their high days and has their low days, and we are all going through this motions of like highs and lows. But once you stop comparison and let go of what everything should look like and let it be what it is, oh my goodness, it is the most relieving thing ever. There's something so powerful of embracing where you are and encouraging yourself the whole way through, not forgetting to celebrate the little wins in the sacrifices that you are already making to do the thing that you're doing, whatever it is. Like no matter what you're doing, you've made sacrifices, you've made commitments, and you've done things. And so the most important thing is to stop that comparison. It's not easy, but being aware, catching the comparison, and just letting go of what everything should look like, and just let it be what it is and be present. We're so often forgetting to be present, because when we're focusing about the past and focusing about the future, guess what? We're not in the present. But when we can just be present and be happy and encourage ourselves away, become our own hype man. And this is what Molly talks about too, which is so important, that it's kind of, she says it's kind of like a little hack to life. is if you can let what is be and celebrate yourself through all the ups and downs and encourage yourself and be your best friend along the whole way, amazing things happen. So I'm going to give you another example in my life. I just completed this training with Rapport, which I've talked about in the last couple of episodes. And shout out to Rapport. I love them. They have just given so much valuable information, and I want to just share it all with you, but all in due time. But I just recently became a master grad of Rapport, which is so exciting and a huge accomplishment. And what I realized as soon as I was finished, I wanted to do the next thing. I was like, what's next? I didn't let myself sit and celebrate. And so once I reflected on that, I was like, okay, I need to celebrate this big moment, because I did put in a lot of financials and a lot of time and a lot of resources. And I wanted to do this, and I did it, and I did it well. And so there was a lack of celebration. So I was like, okay, I need to take a moment and just like celebrate it, because it's so easy to go into the mentality of do more, do more, do more, keep going, keep going, keep going. And we forget to celebrate ourselves along the ways and hype ourselves up in our journey. Because honestly, the one thing that I always think of is like, if you don't do it, who's going to do it? You can't expect anyone else to do it. So why not be your own hype woman? And that's just an example from my life of where celebrating and I just want to move right on. I'm like, that was cool. Okay, great. What's next? What's next? But if you just take a moment in your journey to really be like, dang, good job. Like, you just finished your second semester at university. That's amazing. Amazing job. You just got a promotion at your work that you've been working for really hard. Or my daughter finally learned how to do X, Y, and Z, and I was able to guide her through it. Like, just celebrating the little tiniest wins that you can will completely change your life. So I want to go into a little bit more about like my last couple months that have the same kind of theme. I feel like I've come into some really powerful insight about like the power of letting go. Like I said before, it is definitely a reoccurring message, and it keeps coming back into my life of just the importance of letting go and not like strangling everything. And this is where I have been holding on tight. So I have just felt like so confused, so lost and tired. And honestly, I just wanted the answer of what I should do for the next week, but also for the rest of my life. And I just kind of wanted it to land on my lap. And I've been on this ongoing war for a long time about doing the right and the wrong thing. And I realized that the right thing is actually custom to every single individual, because one right step for me is going to look very different than one right step for you. We're all living in different times, different lives, different moments, and we've experienced different things. And so to expect that the right thing to do as soon as you graduate is to go to university right away or to travel right away, that might not be the right way for you. And it's okay to say the right next thing for me. That's the most powerful thing. The right next thing for me is to do X, Y, and Z. When you can start claiming what the right things for you to do, because I decided that I had to stop asking generally what is the right thing and start asking what is the right next thing for me. Again, removing everyone else, society, norms, and everything aside, because at the end of the day, we get to create our lives. We get to either enjoy or hate, or we get to choose how we respond to our lives, and we get to choose what our lives is. To create is to think is to create. And so we can create our worlds and defy what it means to us to be on the right path and the right track. And it's huge to not get stuck in what everyone else is doing or what the norms say. And again, in my last training with Rapport, I had another major takeaway. And I probably had like thousands of takeaways. Well, I can guarantee you I had 1,000 takeaways, but this is like the biggest one that I'm feeling most called to share, is that I realized that I needed to redefine what my personal objective and purpose is. I feel that our purpose is just who we are as beings. It is nothing more than who we already are. And when we continue to search and search for our passion, the answer's already in us. And another little side note is I'm starting a series on my personal Instagram called 100 Ways to Awaken Your Authentic Self, because of this exact reason, that we are searching and searching and searching for who we are and what our purpose is, where we get to actually give it meaning. We are the ones who give our lives meaning and purpose. And so that is why it is so, so important. But we can get easily lost in it and just continually searching for those things that we are. During this training, there were many exercises, and every exercise had an objective. There was always a goal and an objective to each activity that we did. And through this training and also some mentoring that I've been getting recently, I've come to the realization that my objective in my life is a little bit unclear right now. And I've been overcomplicating it, really, because it is a lot more simple than we think. I've been stressing about money. I've been stressing about my next steps. Like I said before, the path that I'm on, what I should do next. Do I want more clients? And I've been asking like all of these really big questions that a lot of us have all the time. And I realized that I needed to change my objective and stop coming from a lack of And I need to stop coming from a lack of and come from an abundance mindset, a place where I have enough and there is enough and everything that I need is inside of me right now. We define what our objective is, and we get to define what our objective is. We get to define what our purpose is in life. We give everything meaning as human beings. If there's one thing you take from this, is that you get to define everything. And as humans, we give everything meaning. And so what I've decided is to change my objective, to actually label my objective, because I have a lot of exciting things coming up in the fall. I'm traveling more, and I have been in this like weird kind of realm of like, okay, do I want to increase my business and get more clients, or do I want to pursue different things? What do I want to do? And it's kind of been like all over the place, honestly. Like I said at the beginning, it has been a very confusing state. But I realized that right now, the way that the rest of 2023 is going to look for me with traveling and the things that I've come up, it makes sense to sustain where I'm at. And then in 2024, we can totally relook, but I'm going to reframe it. Instead of being like, okay, I have to figure this all out, I have to make more money, I have to do all this. I'm going to start to choose to have fun and to be more intentional with my time. Of course, I have to work and get things done, but what am I doing with the rest of my time when I'm not working? Where can I create more opportunities for fun in my life? Because, like I said, for the rest of 2023, my objective is to have fun and just be joyful, which, of course, I have a realistic side to me, so it's not 100% sustainable, but knowing that there is going to be the flows in and out of the journey and having fun is all a part of it. And it's the beauty of it all, is that there's going to be the joy and the fun, and there's also going to be the sad times. But my objective, my main objective, instead of being like hard on myself, I have to figure this all out, I have to make more money, is just honestly letting go and saying, you know what, for the rest of 2023 in my life, it makes sense for me to have fun. Your objective right now could be for you to meet new people. Your objective could be whatever you want it to be. And I'm not going to give too many examples, because I do want you to figure out and ask yourself, where can you redefine and maybe create a different objective, a goal, a purpose, a mission, anything you want to call it. How can you redefine that for you, so you can suffer a little bit less? Because this has caused me to suffer a little bit less, and it's been very, very helpful. So like, I'm going to give you a little bit of a deeper example of what I mean by like redefining and how you can redefine. So let's say, for example, you're going to college and university, because this is very relevant in my life, and you're kind of dreading it and you don't really know if this is exactly what you want to do. And how you can redefine that and give it a new objective is like, my objective is to learn something new that is going to help me in my future. My objective is that I meet new people and build connections, and do those as your new objectives for going to school, instead of being like, well, school sucks, this is going to suck, I'm going to have so many assignments, so much homework. Instead of looking at like that, remember your objective. And you can even write this down on your wall. Remember what your objective is to learn something new every day, to give it your all, whatever that means for you, and meet new people. And so you can remember, everything you do, does this align with my objective? And when you're feeling overwhelmed and stressed, and be like, it's okay, because my objective is to learn a new skill. Through my stress, I'm learning this and this and this about myself. So that's kind of like an example about like going to school, going to university. And I honestly think reframing, redefining, and figuring out what your objective is for, it doesn't have to be for the rest of this year. It could be like in a month or whatever you want. But I believe that those things have helped me greatly, honestly, feel so much better and feel like a weight has been lifted off of this. And one thing that you need to remember while you're doing this is that you are doing something new. So it's not going to be easy. So don't forget to show yourself like grace along this journey, as that has been a huge thing for me as I've been changing and sifting and redefining my objective, because it's not always easy. And there's also going to be outside noise and people are going to say other things, but it's so important that you remember what you're doing and why you're doing it. Because again, you're doing something that is different than what is normally done in your life. So if you normally wake up every single day at 9 o'clock and you do X, Y, and Z every single morning, and then you start waking up at 8 a.m. and doing Y, Z, F, it's going to be different. And so having that layer of grace and compassion towards yourself, along with all the new things that you're learning, is going to be key. Because anytime you experience change, it's not going to be like, oh yeah, everything's perfect. No, it's going to be up and down. There's going to be moments where you're going to be like, what the heck? Why did I do this? But just remember of the objective that you've given yourself. So if it wasn't clear, I challenge you to go and ask yourself, what is your objective for the next month, for the rest of 2023, for the summer, whatever period of time it is, 3 months, 2 months, a month. What is my objective for July? It can change however often you want. And redefine your objective, reframe it in a way that is positive and exciting to you. What is going to help you get out of your bed in the morning? What is going to be exciting to you? Just to kind of do like a big recap of everything, redefining your objectives and letting go of comparison, letting go of where you think you should be or where everybody else is, and just be where you are and let your own path and journey be its own individual thing, because that's exactly what it is, because we're all so unique and different. And don't forget to celebrate where you are and what you've done and what you've been through and the sacrifices you've made to be where you are today. Celebrating is so often missed, but you don't have to do something big. You can give yourself a hug. You can do anything. Just celebrate yourself throughout the journey. And just because your path looks different than your neighbors or your friends or your moms or your dads or your brother or your sisters, it doesn't need to be the same. You don't need to live the same life as everyone else. You're on your own path, and that's okay. And just let go of the comparison. And of course, comparison is going to slip back through the door once in a while. But if you can improve every single day on comparison, we are all human. And so as soon as you become aware of those thoughts, and once you do that, everything starts to come together. So I hope that that all made sense to you, and some of it has spoken to you in some way, because I feel that we are all extraordinary humans and we deserve to live our lives in our most authentic and real, but also joyful way. And so I am providing little different tools that I'm using to help you by redefining, reimagining, reclaiming, figuring out your objectives, and just reminding you, because we're told all the time not to compare, but just to remind you not to compare, and that it's okay to be exactly where you are. So thank you so much for listening, and thank you in general for being here. I am so excited for season 3 that's coming out in September. There's no specific dates yet. But I just wanted to take another moment and tell you how much I'm grateful for you listening and coming back every bi-weekly and being here. Also wanted to ask you 3 favors really quickly. So one, I've created a Instagram account for this podcast. It's called One World Countless Stories, with periods in between every word. I'm going to put it in the episode notes. If you could go and give that a follow, that would mean the world to me. And you're going to get more content specific to the podcast, which is very exciting. The other thing is, if this episode helped you or any of the episodes before have helped you, can you please share the knowledge? Screenshot it, post it on your story, tag the new podcast page or my personal page. I want to see what you guys think. If you're loving it, if you can share it. And if you don't have social media, that's okay. You can copy the link. If you're ever listening to an episode and you think of somebody that would benefit from hearing that, don't hesitate to share. And the third last thing is, if you have time, please leave a review, whether you are on Apple, Spotify, however you're listening to this. Leave a review for this podcast, as all those three things help this podcast greatly. And we are about to experience major growth over the next season. And so I want you guys to be there along for the journey. And also, anything you can do to support and help means so much to me. And if you've already done these things, thank you so much again. All right, that's the end of this season. That's the end of this episode. I'm so excited. And again, I sound like a broken record, but I couldn't be here without you doing what I love, sharing new insights and messages that I've learned. So thank you so much. And I hope you have the most beautiful day, and we'll see you in a bit.